there was a group of people at the bar whose practices were really based on what was called the miscellaneous causes list. And that group, when I came to the bar, was Aiken, Newton, Young, Fulliger, Bill Harris, Arthur Adams did some. And I was lucky enough to get into that group almost straight away. So that you were likely to be doing anything which involved simple interpretation of legal points as opposed to trying to find out what the facts were. And that grew into, that kind of thing included probate duty, and which was very important, as was Commonwealth estate duty. There was estate duty, there was gift duty, there was probate duty, as well as income tax. It was very difficult for planners to keep all those balls in the air at once. That was the area that I was predominantly engaged in, though I did have, side by side with it, quite a large practice in what may be called disasters.
How did that come about? How did the disaster aspect to your career emerge?
I think because probably at the start, which was probably the King Street Bridge inquiry, you had, well, my client had John Stark leading, and there was a lot of reading kind of work, and everyone knew that the equity fellows were the ones who did the reading, so that one very often got briefed as junior. And I was briefed as junior to John Stark in the King Street Bridge inquiry. Then came the Westgate Bridge. Well, because I'd been in the King Street Bridge, you know, it was thought that I would know something about bridges. So I was junior to Bill Kay. And round about the same time, there were the last two big air crashes that Australia had. The Fokker Friendship went in at Mackay, and a Viscount went in at Botany Bay. And I think both of those, I did a lot of work for TAA at that time, and Tony Murray and I appeared for TAA in both the air inquiries. And then various ships. There was a ship that might have been called Time, I'm not sure, I forget its name, that went ashore on Corsair Rock just inside Port Phillip Heads. A big dredge was brought out here and sank on the voyage, and I was involved in that. And then the New Holland ran down a tug in Melbourne, and there was a Court of Marine inquiry about that. And I was in that one. I was leading by that time. Really most of that work had very little to do with the equity practice, but they were very long. I mean, some of the bridge inquiries were about 6 months, so it's a large part of your practice for that year. But they were all very enjoyable. Jerome Dixon used to not much approve of people being in these inquiries. He said, I think it's better to stick to the legitimate drama, by which he meant the law courts. He was not a great believer in inquiries.
Why was that?
I don't know, and he never explained it, but he did make that remark once. I think he thought that there was, that people who were good at courtroom stuff ought to stick to courts.